During Sunday dinner, my son's wife Vivienne rolled her eyes and said, "Honestly, Thaddeus, having your father around all the time is becoming such a burden." The words hit like ice water, but I simply smiled and excused myself early. She had no idea that the next morning, I'd be making a phone call that would change everything. You won't believe what happened when she discovered the truth. Before we dive into this incredible story of justice and transformation, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss stories like this one. And drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from around the world. The crystal chandelier cast warm light across the mahogany dining table as I carved the prime rib roast I'd prepared for our weekly family dinner. At 72, cooking had become one of my greatest pleasures, especially these Sunday gatherings at my son Thaddeus's sprawling colonial home in Westchester County. "Dad, this is incredible as always," Thaddeus said, savoring another bite. My 38-year-old son had inherited his mother's appreciation for good food, though thankfully not her tendency toward worry. Vivienne, his wife of 8 years, barely touched her plate. Instead, she scrolled through her phone with manicured nails, occasionally sighing with theatrical exhaustion. "I'm just saying, Thaddeus, we need our space. Your father practically lives here now." I continued eating, watching my 7-year-old granddaughter Sophia practice her violin in the adjoining room. Her dedication reminded me of my late wife Eleanor, who'd played piano until arthritis claimed her fingers. "He helps with Sophia's lessons," Thaddeus offered weakly. "And the cooking." "That's exactly my point," Vivienne interrupted, setting down her wine glass with enough force to make the silverware rattle. "We're 38 years old, not children. We don't need a live-in babysitter and chef. Honestly, having your father around all the time is becoming such a burden." The word burden hung in the air like smoke from an extinguished candle. Sophia's violin practice stopped abruptly from the next room. Thaddeus shifted uncomfortably, his fork suspended halfway to his mouth. I set down my napkin with deliberate care, the same precision I'd used during 40 years as a federal judge. "Well, that's certainly an interesting perspective, Vivienne." Standing slowly, I kissed Sophia's forehead as she appeared in the doorway, confused by the sudden tension. "Thank you for dinner, son. Vivienne, I hope you have a wonderful evening." As I drove home through the quiet suburban streets, Vivienne's words echoed in my mind. A burden. Tomorrow morning, she'd learn exactly what kind of burden I'd been carrying. Eleanor's death 3 years ago had shattered more than just my heart. It had destroyed Thaddeus and Vivienne's carefully constructed financial house of cards. As Eleanor lay dying in Mount Sinai Hospital, her final words to me were, "Take care of our boy, Theodore. He's never been good with money, just like his Uncle Robert." She was right. Thaddeus had inherited my love of literature and Eleanor's artistic sensibilities, but somehow missed the gene for financial responsibility. Fresh out of Columbia Law School in 2010, he'd landed a position at a prestigious Manhattan firm, married Vivienne, a former gallery curator with expensive tastes, and promptly began living like they earned twice their actual salaries. The first sign of trouble came in 2012 when they bought the Westchester house. "Dad, we just need help with the down payment," Thaddeus had said, his voice tight with embarrassment. "$20,000, maybe 30. We'll pay you back when my partnership comes through." The partnership never materialized. Instead came Sophia's private school tuition, Vivienne's art collecting phase, the kitchen renovation that somehow cost more than my first house. Each request came with the same promise: temporary help until things stabilized. Then Eleanor got sick. Cancer treatments drained our savings faster than we'd accumulated it over 40 years of careful living. I sold my vintage Jaguar, cashed in bonds, liquidated investments. When she died, I was emotionally devastated and financially stretched thin. That's when the requests became expectations. Vivienne never asked any more, simply announced, "Sophia needs a new violin teacher. The good one costs $400 a month." Or, "We're redoing the master bathroom. The contractor needs a deposit." Thaddeus would shuffle his feet and avoid my eyes while Vivienne outlined their latest necessity. Somewhere along the way, I'd become not their father and grandfather, but their personal bank. A bank that never sent statements or expected repayment. The irony wasn't lost on me. As a federal judge, I'd spent decades holding people accountable for their financial crimes. Yet here I was, enabling my own family's fiscal irresponsibility, one check at a time. Last night's burden comment had simply crystallized what I'd been feeling for months. It was time for an accounting. My home study looked like a law library exploded. 3 years of financial records covered every surface bank statements, canceled checks, credit card bills, and receipts organized with the same methodical precision I'd once applied to complex federal cases. The manila folders were color-coded: blue for direct payments, green for loans never repaid, yellow for emergencies, red for what I euphemistically called lifestyle support. Each folder told a story of gradual financial erosion, disguised as family generosity. I started with the house payment assistance. After Thaddeus lost his law firm position in 2019, they couldn't cover their $200 monthly mortgage. Just 6 months, Dad, until I find something better. That was November 2019. It was now September 2022. 35 months of mortgage assistance, 147, 0. The private school folder made my chest tight. Sophia's education at Riverside Academy cost 28, 0 annually. 3 years plus summer programs and extracurriculars, 95, 0. I'd written those checks proudly, wanting my granddaughter to have every opportunity. Car payments stung worse. Vivienne's BMW lease, Thaddeus's Audi, insurance for both vehicles. We need reliable transportation, especially with Sophia's activities. Monthly total, 1,850. 3 years, 60, 600. The emergency folder was thickest. Vivienne's medical procedures not covered by insurance, the roof repair after the storm, new appliances when their kitchen renovation went over budget, legal fees when Thaddeus faced a malpractice claim that was later dismissed. Each crisis had required immediate assistance, 43, 0. But the lifestyle support folder broke my heart. Vacation deposits for trips I wasn't invited on, restaurant bills charged to my credit card, designer clothing for Vivienne, art pieces that now decorated their walls. The casual assumption that Grandpa's wallet was always open, 67, 0. I pulled out my calculator, the same Texas Instruments I'd used since 1985. The final tally made me sit back in Eleanor's reading chair, 418,600. $418,600 in 3 years. Nearly $500,000 since Eleanor's death, more than most people earned in a decade. All flowing from my accounts to support a lifestyle they couldn't afford while treating me like an unwelcome house guest. The phone rang at 9:30 a.m. Perfect timing. Chase Private Client Services. This is Amanda speaking. How may I assist you today? I need to cancel all automatic payments from my checking account, effective immediately. My voice carried the same authority that had commanded federal courtrooms for 4 decades. Certainly, Judge Whitmore. Let me pull up your account. May I have your account number for verification? Amanda was efficient, professional, and completely unaware she was dismantling 3 years of financial architecture with each keystroke. I see you have 7 automatic payments scheduled. Would you like me to cancel all of them? Every single one. The mortgage payment to Wells Fargo for $4,200 monthly? Canceled. BMW Financial Services, $625 monthly? Canceled. Audi lease payment, $520 monthly? Canceled. Riverside Academy tuition, $800 monthly? This one hurt. Sophia would be devastated. But children adapt, and public schools in Westchester were excellent. Canceled. State Farm Insurance Premium, $380 monthly? Canceled. American Express automatic payment, $500 monthly? Vivienne's shopping sprees and restaurant bills, canceled. And the final one appears to be a recurring transfer to a joint savings account, $20 monthly? Their emergency fund that somehow never stayed funded, canceled. All automatic payments have been discontinued, Judge Whitmore. You'll receive confirmation emails within the hour. Is there anything else I can help you with today? That's everything, Amanda. Thank you. I hung up and immediately called my financial advisor, Harrison Webb. We'd known each other since law school, and he'd been diplomatically suggesting I reduce family support for months. Harrison, it's Theodore. I want to redirect those monthly family payments into my retirement fund, effective immediately. About time, he said without missing a beat. That's roughly $12,000 monthly. We can put it into a balanced portfolio, maybe catch up on some of the retirement savings you've been sharing. Next, I called my estate attorney. Patricia, I need to update my will. Specifically, I want to revise the inheritance structure. What kind of changes? Sophia gets everything in a trust she can access at 30. Thaddeus and Vivienne get nothing unless they meet specific conditions I'll outline later. Understood. How soon do you need this completed? This week. By noon, I'd restructured my entire financial relationship with my family. The burden, as Vivienne called it, had just shifted dramatically. The first call came at 2:47 p.m. Tuesday. Thaddeus's voice carried the confusion of a man whose world had suddenly tilted sideways. Dad, something strange happened with our mortgage payment. Wells Fargo called saying there were insufficient funds. But that doesn't make sense because... His voice trailed off as reality began to dawn. Because you assumed I'd keep paying forever, I said calmly, settling into Eleanor's reading chair with a cup of tea. What do you mean? But his voice already knew. Exactly what Vivienne said Sunday night. I'm no longer being a burden by supporting your household expenses. Silence stretched between us like a chasm. In the background, I could hear Vivienne's voice growing shrill as she realized what was happening. Dad, you can't just... The mortgage alone is $4,200 a month. The car payments, Sophia's school. All discontinued as of this morning. Perhaps you should discuss with your wife how to handle your financial obligations yourselves. But we can't afford... He stopped himself, finally hearing what he was saying. Yes, Thaddeus. That's precisely the point. The line went dead. My phone showed 6 missed calls within the next hour, all from Thaddeus. I let them go to voicemail. At 4:15 p.m., Vivienne called directly. Her voice vibrated with barely controlled panic. Theodore, whatever game you're playing needs to stop immediately. We have responsibilities. Sophia's tuition is due Thursday. You have responsibilities, I corrected. Sophia is your daughter. Figure it out. You can't punish a child because your feelings got hurt at dinner. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm simply stopping my financial support. You wanted space from your burden. Consider this your space. We never asked for this much help. I almost laughed. Vivienne, you never asked for anything. You demanded, expected, and assumed. But you never once said please or thank you. Her breathing quickened. The school, the house payment, the car insurance, everything's due this week. We don't have $48,000 just sitting around. Then you'll need to make some difficult decisions about your lifestyle. This is insane. Thaddeus, talk to your father. But Thaddeus had apparently learned that some conversations couldn't be fixed with his usual diplomatic deflection. The burden of reality was now squarely on their shoulders. The phone rang again at 6:30 p.m. I turned it off and enjoyed the first peaceful evening I'd had in 3 years. By Thursday morning, the financial avalanche was gaining momentum. I was watering Eleanor's rose garden when Mrs. Chen from next door approached with poorly concealed curiosity. Theodore, I hope you don't mind me asking, but is everything all right with Thaddeus and Vivienne? There was quite a commotion at their house yesterday evening. Family discussions can be animated, I replied diplomatically, deadheading a particularly beautiful pink bloom. It's just that Vivienne called me asking about our housekeeper's rates, said they might need to make some budget adjustments. And wasn't that her BMW being towed yesterday afternoon? Indeed it was. BMW Financial Services didn't waste time when lease payments failed. I wouldn't know about their transportation arrangements. What Mrs. Chen didn't mention but what I'd observed from my kitchen window was the heated argument on their front lawn as the tow truck loaded Vivienne's prized sedan. Thaddeus gesticulating wildly while Vivienne stormed back into the house, slamming the door hard enough to rattle windows. Friday brought more interesting developments. While picking up my prescription at the village pharmacy, I encountered Sarah Morton, Riverside Academy's development director. Judge Whitmore, so good to see you. I wanted to thank you personally for your generous support of Sophia's education. 3 years of tuition payments show such dedication to academic excellence. Sophia is a remarkable child who deserves the best opportunities. Absolutely. Though I must ask, we had some confusion about next month's payment. The automatic transfer was declined, and when we called the number on file, someone mentioned changes to the account. You'll need to discuss payment arrangements with Sophia's parents directly. Sarah's smile faltered slightly. Of course. I'm sure it's just a banking mix-up. These things happen. But her expression suggested she'd handled enough banking mix-ups to recognize financial crisis when she saw it. Saturday's farmers market provided the week's most enlightening encounter. Vivienne appeared at my vegetable stand conversation with Harold Brennan, their neighbor and president of the Westchester Country Club. Simply a temporary cash flow issue, she was saying, her voice pitched higher than usual. Of course we can maintain our membership. Theodore's been overly cautious about some investments, but it's nothing permanent. Harold nodded politely, but his eyes held the skeptical gleam of a man who'd heard similar explanations before club memberships lapsed. When Vivienne spotted me selecting tomatoes 3 stands away, her face flushed crimson. She whispered something urgent to Harold and hurried toward the parking lot, leaving behind the organic kale she'd been examining. The social fabric was beginning to fray, and everyone could see the loose threads. Monday morning brought the sound I'd been expecting. Thaddeus's Audi pulling into my driveway with the mechanical wheeze of a man whose world was collapsing. Through the kitchen window, I watched him sit in the driver's seat for several minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel like a life preserver. When he finally knocked, his appearance shocked me. 3 days of crisis had aged him years. His usually immaculate hair was disheveled, his shirt wrinkled, his eyes rimmed with exhaustion. "Dad, we need to talk." I invited him into the kitchen, poured coffee, and waited. Sometimes silence was the most powerful tool in any negotiation. The house payment bounced. Wells Fargo is demanding $4,200 plus a $200 penalty by Friday, or they'll begin foreclosure proceedings. His voice was hollow, defeated. Sophia's school expelled her Friday afternoon. Vivienne's been crying for 2 days. I'm sorry to hear Sophia's caught in the middle. The car insurance lapsed. If we get pulled over, they'll impound the Audi, which might be academic since we can't afford gas anyway. He laughed bitterly. Vivienne's applied at 6 different retail stores. Nordstrom, Macy's, even Target. No one wants to hire someone whose last job was 12 years ago. I remained silent, studying my son's face. For the first time since Eleanor's death, I saw genuine humility there. I tried to get a loan Friday. Personal loan, home equity line, anything. But our debt-to-income ratio is... He shook his head. The bank officer laughed. Dad. Actually laughed. Said our expenses exceed our income by 60% even without considering your support. What does that tell you? That we've been living in a fantasy. His voice cracked. We never earned any of this. The house, the cars, Sophia's school, the vacations, the dinners out, Vivienne's art collection. None of it was ours. It was all you. He looked around my modest kitchen, really seeing it for the first time. The 20-year-old appliances, the simple Formica countertops, the second-hand table Eleanor had refinished herself. You've been living like a monk while funding our delusions of grandeur, and we called you a burden. Tears started flowing freely. God, Dad, what have we done? Outside, a delivery truck rumbled past, its engine gradually fading into the distance. Inside my kitchen, a 38-year-old man finally understood the difference between earning and expecting. The question isn't what you've done, Thaddeus. It's what you're going to do now. Tuesday evening, they arrived together, Thaddeus driving the Audi with visible anxiety, Vivienne in the passenger seat staring straight ahead like someone facing execution. I watched from my study window as they sat in the driveway for 10 minutes, clearly rehearsing whatever speech they'd prepared. Sophia wasn't with them. Smart choice. I opened the door before they could knock. Please, come in. They settled in my living room like defendants awaiting sentencing. Vivienne had clearly been crying. Her usually perfect makeup was smudged, her designer blouse wrinkled. Thaddeus sat forward, hands clasped, trying to project the confidence he'd once wielded in corporate boardrooms. Dad, we've come to apologize and discuss how we might repair this situation. I'm listening. Vivienne shifted uncomfortably. Theodore, I owe you a sincere apology for Sunday night. Calling you a burden was inexcusable, especially considering. She gestured vaguely, unable to voice the scope of my support. Especially considering the $418,000 I've provided over 3 years? Her face went pale. That much? Mortgage payments, car leases, insurance, school tuition, credit card bills, emergencies, lifestyle expenses, $12,000 monthly for 36 months. I have documentation for every penny. Thaddeus cleared his throat. We're prepared to sign promissory notes for the full amount. Set up a payment plan with interest. At your current income level, paying me back would take approximately 47 years, assuming you never needed help again. Silence settled over the room like dust. Outside, the neighborhood was preparing for evening barbecue smoke drifting through windows, children calling to each other across yards, the normal sounds of families living within their means. What do you want from us? Vivienne asked, her voice small. I want you to live honestly. No more pretending you can afford lifestyles you can't sustain. No more expecting others to fund your choices. We'll downsize, Thaddeus said quickly. Sell the house. Move somewhere affordable. Sophia can attend public school. That's a start. But there's more. I pulled out a folder from my desk. I'm prepared to help with one thing. Sophia's education. I'll pay her tuition directly to whatever school you choose, public or private, plus her legitimate educational expenses. Nothing else. Hope flickered in their eyes. However, I continued, this support comes with conditions. First, you'll both work full-time. No exceptions, no excuses. Second, you'll create and stick to a budget I approve monthly. Third, you'll attend financial counseling. Done, Thaddeus said immediately. I'm not finished. Fourth, you'll write letters to everyone you've lied to about your financial situation, neighbors, friends, family. You'll acknowledge my support and apologize for the deception. Vivienne's face flushed red. Public humiliation? Public honesty. Take it or leave it. They exchanged glances, communicating in the silent language of desperate couples. Finally, Thaddeus nodded. We accept your terms. All of them, I insisted, looking directly at Vivienne. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and whispered, yes, all of them. Friday morning, I sat in my study reading their letters before they mailed them. Thaddeus had drafted his on legal letterhead, approaching the task with lawyerly precision. Vivienne's was handwritten, her usually elegant script shaky with emotion. Thaddeus's letter to the Westchester Country Club board was particularly striking. Dear fellow members, I write to correct misunderstandings about my family's recent financial situation. For 3 years following my mother's death, my father, Judge Theodore Whitmore, provided substantial financial support for our household expenses, including mortgage payments, vehicle leases, and my daughter's education. This support totaled over $400. My wife's recent comments about account adjustments were inaccurate. We are discontinuing our membership due to our inability to afford it without my father's assistance. We apologize for any confusion our misleading statements may have caused. Vivienne's letter to the Riverside Academy Parents Association was more personal. Dear friends, I need to make an honest confession about our family's financial circumstances. My father-in-law, Judge Whitmore, has been paying Sophia's tuition and our major household expenses for 3 years. Without his generosity, we could never have maintained our lifestyle or Sophia's education. I recently made hurtful comments about his support, calling him a burden. This was wrong, ungrateful, and completely unfair to a man who sacrificed his own comfort for our family's stability. Sophia will be transferring to Westchester Elementary next month. We are downsizing our lives to match our actual income. I apologize for any dishonesty about our circumstances. At 2 p.m., they knocked on my door carrying sealed envelopes and a small girl with tear-stained cheeks. Grandpa Theodore, Sophia ran to me, wrapping her arms around my waist. Mommy and Daddy said we might not see you anymore. That's not true, sweetheart. We just need to make some changes to help your parents learn important lessons about money and honesty. I knelt to her level. You're going to start at a new school soon. It will be different, but change can be good. And I'll still help with your violin lessons and anything else you need for learning. But what about my friends at Riverside? Real friends stay friends no matter what school you attend. And you'll make new friends too. Thaddeus handed me the stack of letters. 12 letters total. Everyone we misled, directly or indirectly. The hardest ones were to my parents. Vivienne added quietly. They've been so proud of our success, finding out it was all funded by Theodore. She couldn't finish. Honesty is painful sometimes, but it's the foundation of everything else. I turned to Sophia. Your mommy and daddy are learning to be brave by telling the truth, even when it's embarrassing. That's what grown-ups do when they make mistakes. She nodded solemnly. Like when I broke your vase and told you right away? Exactly like that. And remember how proud I was that you told the truth. Will you be proud of mommy and daddy too? I looked at my son and daughter-in-law, both standing straighter despite their obvious discomfort. Yes, sweetheart, I'm very proud of them for being brave enough to fix their mistakes. For the first time in 3 years, I genuinely was. 6 months later, transformation had settled over our family like morning dew, gradual, nourishing, and real. I was reviewing my monthly financial reports when Thaddeus called with his regular budget update. Dad, good news. Vivienne got promoted to assistant manager at Barnes Noble. $22 an hour now, plus benefits. Excellent. How's she adjusting to retail work? Better than expected. Turns out her art history background makes her valuable in their rare books section, and she's actually happier. more engaged than she ever was during her gallery curator days. This surprised me. How so? She helps customers find books they love every day. Immediate satisfaction instead of waiting months for gallery sales. Plus, she's meeting people from all walks of life instead of just wealthy collectors. Through my kitchen window, I could see them arriving for our monthly dinner. But instead of the BMW and Audi, they drove a practical Honda Pilot used, but reliable and perfect for a family of 3. Sophia bounced through my front door carrying her violin case and a folder of artwork. "Grandpa Theodore, look what I made in art class." She'd painted a family portrait, 3 figures standing in front of a modest house, all holding hands and smiling. No mansion, no luxury cars, just contentment. "Tell me about this beautiful picture." "That's our new apartment. It's smaller than our old house, but Mommy says it's better because we can afford it ourselves. And see?" She pointed to the painted figures. "Everyone looks happy." Vivienne entered carrying a casserole dish, her appearance transformed. Gone were the designer clothes and professional makeup. She wore jeans, a simple sweater, and minimal makeup, but she looked younger, more relaxed. "Theodore, I brought that tuna noodle casserole recipe you mentioned. Figured I should learn to cook now that we're not eating out 3 times a week. How are the financial counseling sessions going?" "Eye-opening," Thaddeus replied, settling into my living room. "We never realized how much we spent on absolutely nothing. Coffee shops, impulse purchases, subscription services we forgot we had. The counselor showed us we were hemorrhaging money on things that brought 0 happiness." Vivienne nodded enthusiastically. "We created a necessity versus want list for every purchase. Amazing how few things are actually necessary." "And Sophia's adjustment to public school?" "Better than we hoped," Thaddeus said. "Her teacher says she's more grounded than most kids who transfer from private schools, more appreciative of opportunities. Plus," Sophia added, "my new friends think it's super cool that my grandpa is a judge. Tommy Martinez's dad is a police officer, and he wants to meet you." Over dinner, they shared stories from their transformed lives. Vivienne described customer interactions that reminded her why she'd loved art in the first place. Thaddeus talked about his new position at a smaller law firm, less prestige, but more meaningful work and manageable hours. "The funny thing," Vivienne said, cutting Sophia's roast beef, "is that we actually fight less now. When money was unlimited, we argued about how to spend it. Now that we have a budget, every decision is clear." "Grandpa," Sophia said, "Daddy reads me stories every night now instead of working late, and Mommy teaches me to cook on weekends. Is that because we don't have as much money?" "What do you think, sweetheart?" She considered this seriously. "I think they have more time because they're not worried about spending money they don't have. Sometimes wisdom comes from the mouths of 7-year-olds. One year after that fateful Sunday dinner, I stood in my kitchen preparing for what had become our new tradition, monthly family meetings that felt more like celebrations than financial reviews. The transformation was complete, but more importantly, it was authentic. Through my window, I watched the Honda Pilot pull into my driveway, the same car, still reliable, but now bearing new bumper stickers. "Westchester Elementary honor student," and my child reads at Barnes Noble. Sophia ran through my door carrying a wrapped package and wearing the biggest smile I'd seen since Eleanor was alive. "Grandpa Theodore, we have something special for you." Thaddeus and Vivienne followed, both carrying covered dishes and wearing expressions of genuine contentment. Gone was Vivienne's perpetual anxiety about appearances. Gone was Thaddeus's defensive tension about money. They looked like people who slept well at night. "What's the occasion?" I asked, accepting Sophia's enthusiastic hug. Open it," she demanded, bouncing on her toes. Inside the package was a photo album titled 1 Year of Gratitude. Page after page showed their journey. Vivienne at her Barnes Noble name tag ceremony, Thaddeus helping Sophia with homework at their apartment's kitchen table, family bike rides through Central Park, picnics in their modest backyard. But the final page made my throat tight. It was a letter, written in Sophia's careful, second-grade handwriting. "Dear Grandpa Theodore, Mommy and Daddy told me about how you helped us for a long time and we forgot to say thank you. That was wrong. You are not a burden. You are the best grandpa ever. Now we live in a smaller place, but we are happier. Daddy comes to my school plays and Mommy reads to me every night. We learned that having less money means having more family time. Thank you for teaching us to be grateful and honest. I love you. Your granddaughter, Sophia." She wrote every word herself. Vivienne said softly, "We helped with spelling, but the thoughts are entirely hers. During dinner, they shared their latest milestone. They'd saved enough for a small emergency fund and were considering buying a modest house within their actual budget. "No help from you," Thaddeus clarified quickly. "We want to earn this ourselves, though we'd love your advice on the financial planning." "Of course, but I'm curious, does it feel to save for something instead of simply expecting it?" Vivienne and Thaddeus exchanged glances, communicating in that silent language couples develop. "Terrifying and exhilarating simultaneously," Vivienne answered. "Every dollar we save represents actual work, actual sacrifice. It means something now. When we owned things we couldn't afford, I constantly worried about losing them," Thaddeus added. "Now that we only have what we've earned, there's peace in that." As evening settled over my neighborhood, I walked them to their car. Sophia hugged me goodbye, whispering, "Grandpa, thank you for loving us enough to let us grow up." Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the opportunity to stand on their own feet. Watching their taillights disappear down the street, I reflected on Eleanor's final words. Take care of our boy. She hadn't meant enable his every whim or subsidize his poor choices. She'd meant help him become the man he was capable of being. The burden, as it turned out, had never been mine to carry forever. The real burden was learning when to let go. Inside my house, I settled into Eleanor's reading chair with the photo album. Page by page, I saw a family that had learned the difference between wealth and worth, between having everything and appreciating anything. The revenge I'd sought wasn't punishment, it was transformation. And sometimes, the sweetest justice is watching people you love finally learn to love themselves enough to live honestly. As Eleanor would have said, "Well done, Theodore. Well done indeed." If this story of transformation and justice moved you, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories that will restore your faith and accountability. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that actions have consequences, and let us know in the comments. Have you ever had to teach a family member a tough lesson about respect and gratitude? Your story might be featured in our next video. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads. And remember, sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to enable someone's worst behavior. Until next time, keep standing up for what's right.